There was once a boy who heard a story that changed his life. It was a story about heroes, men who crossed oceans, men who fought impossible battles, men whose names refused to die. Most children were happy simply listening to such stories, but this boy was different. When the story ended, he asked a question. If those men became legends, why can't I? The adults smiled. Children often say strange things. No one thought much of it. But the boy never forgot the question. This is the story of Alexander the Great, the greatest conqueror the world has ever known. He was born in the kingdom of Macedon, a rugged land north of Greece. His father was a king, a powerful one, the kind of man whose name was spoken carefully. But Alexander was less interested in his father's kingdom than he was in the stories of the past. He loved tales of Achilles, of Hercules, of heroes who seemed larger than life. Sometimes, while others slept, Alexander would imagine himself standing beside them, marching into unknown lands, fighting impossible enemies, earning a place among the legends. Most boys eventually outgrow such dreams. Alexander never did. As he grew older, people began noticing something unusual about him. He learned quickly, he spoke confidently, and there was a fire inside him that never seemed to rest. It was as though he were always looking beyond the horizon, searching for something nobody else could see. Then came the horse, a massive black stallion no one could control. The strongest riders in the kingdom had tried. All had failed. The animal kicked, threw men to the ground. The crowd laughed as another rider tumbled through the dirt. Then Alexander stepped forward. "I can ride him." The laughter grew louder. He was only a boy. But Alexander had noticed something everyone else had missed. The horse wasn't angry, it was frightened. Every time it saw its own shadow, it panicked. So Alexander turned the horse toward the sun. The shadow disappeared. The animal became calm. Moments later, he was racing across the field. The crowd stood in stunned silence. When he returned, his father embraced him. And according to one story, the king said, "My son, Macedon is too small for you." Perhaps he was right, because not long afterward, everything changed. The king was murdered. One day he was alive, the next he was gone. And suddenly, the young dreamer became king. Alexander was only 20 years old. Many expected disaster. Enemies began plotting. Rebellions erupted. Neighboring kingdoms sensed weakness. To them, Alexander was just a boy wearing a crown. They were wrong. One by one, he crushed every threat, every rebellion, every rival, every enemy. Soon, the kingdom was secure. But security had never been Alexander's dream. His eyes were fixed on something much larger. Across the sea stood the Persian Empire, the greatest empire on earth. A realm so vast that most people could barely imagine it. Its cities glittered with wealth. Its armies numbered in the hundreds of thousands. Its king ruled over lands stretching beyond the horizon. Most rulers would have feared such an empire. Alexander saw an opportunity, and so, with an army at his back and a dream in his heart, he marched east. At first, many believed they were watching a tragedy unfold, a young king challenging the most powerful empire in the world. How could such a thing end well? Yet battle after battle, Alexander won. He crossed rivers under storms of arrows, charged armies larger than his own, captured cities thought impossible to conquer. Every victory seemed to make the next one possible. Soon, stories about him began spreading faster than his armies. People whispered his name in marketplaces. Soldiers told tales about him beside campfires. Some called him brave, others called him reckless. A few believed he was chosen by the gods. Years passed, the impossible became reality. The Persian Empire fell. Its treasures became his. Its palaces became his. Its cities opened their gates to him. The boy who once dreamed of heroes had become one. But Alexander was never satisfied. There was always another mountain, another desert, another river, another horizon. So he continued east, deeper into lands few Greeks had ever seen. His army followed him through burning deserts and frozen mountains, through lands filled with unfamiliar languages and strange customs. Perhaps he was searching for the edge of the world. Perhaps he was searching for immortality. Or perhaps he was still that little boy chasing the heroes from his stories. Eventually, even legends encounter limits. Alexander's soldiers were exhausted. They had marched for years, fought countless battles, buried countless friends. They wanted to go home. For the first time in his life, Alexander heard a word he wasn't used to hearing: no. Reluctantly, he turned back. The long journey home began. But Alexander would never reach it. In the ancient city of Babylon, the conqueror fell ill. At first, nobody worried. He had survived battles, assassins, storms, deserts. Surely a fever could not defeat him. But the fever grew worse. Days passed. The strongest man in the world could barely leave his bed. Outside, soldiers waited anxiously. Inside, generals stood in silence. The empire held its breath. Alexander was only 32 years old. He had conquered kingdoms, defeated empires, achieved everything he had dreamed of as a child. Yet now he faced an enemy he could not defeat: time. One by one, the days slipped away, and eventually, so did Alexander. The man who had spent his life conquering the world left it with nothing. No army, no treasure, no crown, no empire, only a name. More than 2,000 years have passed since then. His palaces have crumbled, his empire has vanished. The men who marched beside him are long forgotten. Yet somehow, the boy who dreamed of becoming a legend got exactly what he wanted. Because tonight, thousands of years later, we are still telling his story. And as long as stories survive, perhaps heroes never truly die.